Professor Garcia, and we will welcome again to our, and thank you to our panelists.
Yeah, great. I'm excited. Thanks everyone for coming to this professional quest for business analytics. I'm an instructor of business analytics here at George Mason and also the director of the business analytics concentration. So this professional quest event today is near and dear to my passions and interests. So we have a couple of panelists here with us now and hoping that two more join us here soon to give you an idea of, the career path for business analytics and some of the things that you should be interested in as students pursuing business analytics and possibly a career in business analytics. But let's start, if you don't mind, Alyssa and Brian, with a brief introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your career path and how you ended up in a career involving business analytics.
Sure, I guess I can go ahead and jump in and go first. My name is Alyssa Williams. I currently work with BDO, a global accounting firm, in their tax performance engineering group. I've had an interesting background. I actually went to college for econometrics and finance and started with a large manufacturing company right out of school working in their finance department, and I hated it. So I was really interested more in the data aspect of things more than I was interested in the month-end close, the monthly forecast cycle. So I taught myself a lot of my data analytics skills, SQL, Python, Tableau, Alteryx, all of those skills I kind of learned outside of school. And then I use that to leverage into a more data analytics focused position. So my background is kind of on the junior analyst side, development, both front end and back end, as well as the management side, where I've managed a team of junior and senior analysts as well. So very interesting path to get here.
All right, I guess I'll go. So my name is Brian Harris, and I'm a senior principal customer success manager at Tableau Software. What led me ultimately to Tableau originally as an undergrad, I was also an economics major at West Point, and I had a background in econometrics as well. I took a lot of econometrics classes there, and I really loved like the quantitative aspect of the econ program. And I kind of even liked like spreadsheet analysis back then. So I think that drew me to my time in the Army. It ultimately drew me to the field of operations research, where I came back to Mason. I got my master's degree in operations research there. And I did that for a time in the Army, supporting a lot of different commands, doing campaign assessments in Afghanistan, doing analysis of alternatives for Department of Defense, and just a lot of different kind of types of analytics across the DoD, and I really enjoyed that. After I got out of active duty, I went into the intelligence community, really as a data scientist and Tableau developer. Really was what a lot of folks wanted there. So I went in there. I did that for a couple of years as a consultant, before ultimately coming to Tableau Software as customer success manager. In that role, I support folks across mostly the public sector, getting the most out of the tool Tableau, and helping basically for them to be successful. Besides that, I also got an opportunity to do a master's in business analytics at the University of Virginia, Darden School of Business. So I recently did that about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was really fascinated with that program and the whole business analytics track. And I'm really excited for everyone that's on this call that's in the business analytics program there at George Mason. So that's a little bit about me. Over.
No, we just recently approved here at George Mason a master's in business analytics program as well. So I think that will be launched fall 2023, I believe, is when that program begins. So lots of growth here at Mason within business analytics. Now, I might have missed it, but would both of you stress what or reiterate what company you work for, what's your title at that company? Because I get that question a lot, like what job can I get, as a business analytics? So maybe what are you called, at your company? What's your business title? What company do you work for? And also maybe a little bit about your company. What type of projects or services do they provide that are within this field of analytics?
Sure. So I currently work for BDO. They're a global accounting firm, and I work in their tax performance engineering department. So essentially what we do is we help both internally and our external clients. We help with a lot of like tax process automation, tax analytics, tax data visualization. So anything from I'm paying this amount in sales tax. What states or jurisdictions am I paying that sales tax in? What's driving the sales tax changes? We're doing a lot of work right now with private equity clients and how their investments are driving different tax implementations for their partners. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, Brian?
Awesome. So I am at Tableau Software. Tableau is a Salesforce company. So we were acquired by Salesforce a few years ago. But Tableau is one of the market leaders for business intelligence data analytics, and data visualization software. Hopefully you guys are getting to use it a little bit there at George Mason. But I guess that's my role here as the senior principal customer success manager, which is not inherently like a technical job necessarily. Really, my role is to help our strategic customers make sure that they have their Tableau servers are running properly. They're building analytic proficiency and building data culture, and they're also building the community around data analytics and just really analytics in general. So that's what I do. Previously, previous roles I've had have just been like consultant, lead associate at various contracting companies within the government. Besides that Tableau, I mean, there are a lot of analytic job possibilities. The kind of job titles that you'd probably be looking for are business analytics consultants, or we have solutions engineers who basically help customers solve their problems in the Tableau software and integrate different things, whether it be R, Python, bring it all together. So we have solutions engineers. We also have professional services. So there's different ways, at least at Tableau and within Salesforce, that you can come in and have an analytics background and be successful. I think because we are Tableau for sure, and most Salesforce as well, the whole company is really focused around analytics. Most people will have some background in analytics, or that they come in and are successful, and it's just really part of our culture. Over.
Yeah, great. No, there are courses here at Mason that we use Tableau, within our projects, and students are introduced to Tableau. I have myself worked with it in my coursework. Can you tell us, well, how about what might be a typical day for you, on your job, and then compare and contrast that to what a typical day on the job would be like for an entry level analyst, at your company, and how has that kind of progressed and changed?
Yeah, I can take that first, I guess. So typically my day starts out with answering a lot of emails. We get a lot of client questions, both on the status side, how is the project progressing, as well as questions regarding the development. So, hey, there might be a change in requirement, or there might be a change in scope. How do we address that? Most of my day is spent kind of managing projects. So kind of overseeing junior analysts in the team, things like that. If you transition that to kind of what you would be doing at an entry level role, a lot of your day is going to be spent developing. And that development is really going to vary depending on if your focus is more back end. So if you think back end development, think data warehousing, working in a data lake, SQL development, things like that. If you're more focused on the front end development of things, you're building dashboards in Tableau or Power BI or any of the other data visualization tools. And your focus is really on developing those dashboards to drive business questions or drive business decisions. So kind of as a junior entry level person, your day is going to be focused on development and learning. When I started out as a junior, so much of my day was spent Googling, how do I do this? What is really needed? And especially, with my background in econometrics, when I initially came in at A.O. Smith, the manufacturing company I worked for right out of college, I thought I was going to be able to do all of these really cool statistical analyses and solve all of these business problems. But the world is a lot messier than it is in your college classes. So just being able to learn and be curious are really big drivers that are going to kind of propel you forward in your career.
All right. Thanks, Alyssa. So I think with my role at Tableau, as you get more senior, really, I think the difference. So really, my day, and it's hard to really say what my day actually looks like with COVID for the last 2 years, and things have kind of just changed. But really, I just have a ton of meetings placed on my calendar with customers. So as a customer success manager, I will support about 7 or 8 like enterprise customers where we'll have weekly cadence calls. I'll do things like lunch and learns for them, help set up analytics days, different events. And so we have kind of this regular cadence, but I'll also do like a lot of just meeting with customers, understanding their analytic challenges, helping them, doing some coaching type work. I think at Tableau, at least in my current role and a lot of the roles, the entry level jobs are, I guess, less what we call high touch. So you'll have a lot of like smaller accounts, and you won't have necessarily like the big accounts that you'd be supporting. You just, instead of supporting 7 customers, like really large customers, you might be supporting 40 much smaller ones. And so you just have, I think there's a little more like tempo there, and just balancing a lot of different things at once. Now, I think that's at least at Tableau and Salesforce, a lot of the senior folks work remotely, actually all the time. And a lot of the entry level folks are, but they even like to be in the office a little more. If you've ever I'm sure you guys have seen like Google or a lot of the technology companies, the offices are actually pretty fun. You have games, you have food, you have all you can eat avocados, you have lattes, everything. So it's actually pretty fun to be an entry level employee at a technology company. And they really enjoy going to the office, kind of collaborating, working together, and having that really fun shared space. So I'll say that. The other thing I will say is, just from my background doing consulting work in analytics in general, like Alyssa said, really as an entry level person, you're doing just a lot of the hands-on, actually working on projects, actually building things, doing the actual analysis. And as you kind of progress, you still do that, but you'll start doing less and less, because more and more of your time is going to be focused on writing proposals and business development and some other things. So as you kind of go up, the less and less analysis, if you will, you'll likely do. Now, a lot of consulting firms and things will have like a different track. So if you just want to stay technical and you just want to stay in like analytics, they usually do have a track where you can just be a technical expert and that's all you do. And then they'll have a separate track for folks that want to go up into management and actually manage teams and lead people. So usually there are those, and you just kind of know that, as you come and start going up through the ranks, you'll probably have that decision to make at some point.
Yeah, I have heard that feedback a lot, that a lot of companies will nurture, different employees' strengths and goals and have different paths for them throughout the company. So you did touch briefly on COVID, but how has COVID impacted your business, and how has your business or your firm responded to that, and what new skills should we as students try to acquire to give them this edge in how business has changed due to COVID? It looks like we're all zooming in from home, so lots of things have changed.
Yeah, I know our team, so the BDO tax performance engineering team, this has always been a fully remote team. So it wasn't so much a transition from, oh, I'm in an office every day all the time, to, oh, I'm suddenly at home. We've always just kind of been at home. But I will say one of the major differences is we went from having a lot of like scoping sessions and whiteboard sessions where we're really gathering client requirements for a project. Those used to be on site a lot more. So you would actually get a chance to meet the client face to face, kind of sit down and work through a lot of these, requirements gathering sessions in person. And now all of a sudden, a lot of these were over Zoom or over Teams. So that was definitely a transition. Being able to flexibly adjust to that kind of stuff is really important. Analytics in general changes so fast that I think as a group, analysts are better able to adapt to things like that just because we're so used to it. But that was definitely a transition for us, was less client contact.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, so I think I'll echo what Alyssa said there. Just the interaction that you have with your customers is just different when it's over Zoom. And you'll have these meetings and half of them will probably be like doing 3 other things, in the background, and you just don't really develop that same relationship than when you're in person. You're having lunch with someone, maybe you're grabbing drinks at happy hour. So that's been a little challenging as far as like kind of navigating that. And if you're customer facing and responsible for kind of maintaining those relationships and understanding what the customer really wants. And I think even as you're an entry level person, it's really important to understand the customer's actual problem and what they're trying to achieve. And it's harder to do that again on Zoom. And I think what really changed a lot is just like the density of like the schedule that we have, so I went from maybe having, 4 or 5 meetings a day for now to like maybe having 10 meetings a day or something. And just like the entire calendar will get packed now that everything's remote. So it does just seem like we are doing a lot more virtual meetings, and maybe we're getting more work done, but it is just a little bit different. As far as like business goes, I think at Tableau and within the federal government for sure, and there's just been a lot of money that's kind of flowed through because of COVID. I mean, Tableau was used by I think 46 of the states to build all their COVID dashboards. We've had a lot of folks starting using using Tableau and increasing the demand for data analytics because of the whole COVID crisis, not only because they actually had requirements for analytics, But I think it was accelerated by the fact that like so much money was thrown at the states and at the federal government. So we definitely picked up a lot of it got a lot busier because of COVID, for sure. I would say that.
Yeah, it's a lot of challenges, and like Alyssa said, we just are always adjusting in analytics and in life, aren't we? Um, I think we have a new panelist that joined us here. I'm not quite seeing. Oh, there you are, Daniel. Daniel Ungerleiter from KPMG. If we could catch you up, maybe just give a brief introduction about yourself and maybe your career path that led you to analytics. Maybe a little bit about your company and job title and projects you work on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties. I joined a little late, so I missed the other intros. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, my name's Dan Ungerleiter. I'm an associate in KPMG's federal advisory practice. So I started full time with the firm in September of 2020. So about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half in. And I did start fully remote. So I called in a little late and overheard some talk about adjusting to being fully remote and kind of gaining your clients' trust through being fully remote. And so for me, starting fully remote, I've had to kind of hit the ground running and kind of start my career figuring those kind of things out. So for me, one of the things that's really improved over time is kind of gaining your clients' trust through the work that you deliver and the high quality work that you provide and the constant communication and being available for your clients. And so that's one of the main things I've learned since starting full time is in this environment, you kind of have to take that extra step, send that extra email, schedule that extra, touch point with your clients to really gain and maintain their trust in this environment. As you know, it's obviously a weird situation for everybody. And then I guess in terms of some of the projects that I'm working on, I'm on a data management team. So it's a pretty technical project, but we do have software developers, we have project managers, business analysts. I'm kind of more on the functional side of things, so I have a little bit more of a client facing role than some of our developers do, but I do work hand in hand developing requirements for building out some of our reporting capabilities, writing user stories, compiling documentation for deliverables. And then, at KPMG, we have a lot of groups and extracurriculars that you can get involved in. So I'm on a staff council with other members across federal advisory, associate and senior associate level, where we help work with leadership to help provide feedback, help plan certain events, help plan networking events, knowledge sharing across the practice. Since there's so many projects that are occurring across the federal advisory practice, sometimes it can get kind of siloed and teams don't always know some of the other projects that are going on. So we're trying to really improve on and increase that collaboration and knowledge sharing across the practice and encourage the use of best practices throughout project and client delivery. So I'll stop there. I don't want to take too much time with the intro, but yeah, apologies again for joining late.
No worries. Glad you could catch up. Sometimes it's interesting to students to hear, the career path and, how you ended up at this point. What is your background? What is your degree and what led you to KPMG?
So I got a bachelor's in systems engineering and economics from the University of Virginia. So I graduated in 2020. And going into systems engineering, I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to go into the federal consulting world right away. A lot of my coursework was really focused on, we did a lot of case studies and we did a lot of like professional development, project type work that kind of aligned with short-term typical consulting project, I guess. So I really enjoyed working on a team. I really enjoyed kind of that fast pace. You're working through a certain problem and you have to build out, whether it's a briefing deck or a recommendation or building out a solution, whatever it is. I really enjoy that kind of working through and figuring out some of those shorter, longer term problems with the team. And then I really also enjoy that kind of client facing aspect. When I was going through my undergrad career fairs and whatnot, I had spoke with a lot of big companies, but KPMG really stood out to me in the people that I spoke with, the culture that they really emphasize and make such a high priority, as well as some of the projects that the folks that I was talking with had told me about. Seemed like really interesting to me. Um, and I would say that what really drew me was the people. And I know a lot of people will say that, but it's really important, especially in the remote. And it's hard to kind of really gain each other's trust and foster a really collaborative culture remote. And I think that KPMG does a really good job of doing so. So you're trying to really, go the extra step to schedule certain virtual events and check in with how everybody's doing and really trying to make sure that everybody's well-being is being looked out for. So I have really valued the culture and like kind of how I've been treated, as well as encouraging each and every employee to treat others and really live that culture every day in and day out, in and outside of work. So that's definitely been a big thing for kind of increasing that well-being.
Kind of follow up to that, and this is really open to any of the panelists or all. It'd be good to hear from all. Um, you touched on, the value of working with other people at your company, but what would you say, besides a paycheck, is the most rewarding part of your job and doing this type of work? What would you say you get the most value and reward from? Any
I
of
guess
you, if you
I'll
want.
I guess I'll take that one to start. I mean, I think I told you guys I did 14 years on active duty, and I was using analytics to support the defense mission, and I really enjoyed that. I loved the being able to contribute. Even as I got out into consulting, I was still supporting that mission, and even at Tableau. I'm interacting with customers on a daily basis who are actually solving hard problems, supporting the national defense of the country. So one, I love solving hard problems and working with folks to help them do that. And then I think it's just rewarding to continue to serve, regardless of who's paying the paycheck. But just having that ability to continue to serve the country.
Yeah, I think I would echo Brian's sentiment around loving a challenge. I think that's probably the number one driver of most of the analysts I've ever talked to. They love a challenge. I also really enjoy working with people who are not necessarily analysts. They don't understand databases. They don't understand how to query data out of a database. They don't understand how to build anything in Tableau. But when you put something in front of them that's easy to digest and helps them answer their questions, that light bulb moment of, I get it, is really like my favorite part of my day, when somebody can say, hey, I can use this dashboard, or I can use this report, or I can use this analysis to make better decisions. That's one of my all-time favorite things. So
Yeah, it sounds like something I tell my students almost every semester, is one of the hardest parts, or one of the most rewarding parts of being an analyst, is to try and explain and show what you're doing to someone that's a smart person. They're smart, but they might not have a background in data analytics and being able to show and explain and teach, to a non-analyst in non-analytic terms what everything means. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, just to kind of echo that, so many times as analysts, we look at things from a quantitative perspective. We want the numbers, we want the data, but it's usually those people that we're explaining this information to, those non-data people, who can provide that qualitative aspect of information that can really complete your analysis. So, yeah.
So it looks like I have a couple questions from the students that have come in. So you don't all need to touch on this, but if someone feels that they have a good answer, when it comes to federal versus private sector work, is there a major gap in technical software and knowledge that you would need to learn about? Private versus federal.
So I think there's a couple answers to this. I think in a lot of parts in the government, because of security reasons and because of whatever, sometimes it's hard to get software installed on the networks. Sometimes they're kind of using versions that are 3 years old. That's always kind of a challenge that you have to deal with sometimes within the federal government. And I think probably state governments as well. That said, there are portions of the government where like they're far in front of the commercial sector. And especially if you are looking at like doing analytics, let's say within the intelligence agencies, and you're, whether you're at CIA or NSA or something like that. I mean, in some cases they are out in front of the commercial sector. So I think if you are, if you're looking for that kind of being on the cutting edge, you can do that in government. There are places that you can do that, but there's also places that you probably want to avoid if you want to be on the cutting edge as well. So I guess that's that's what I'll say on that topic.
No, I think that is insightful, that there are some situations where one might be behind the other in their technical, you know, uh, programs that they use, and there might be instances where that flips. Yeah, so yeah, I would say that's very insightful. Um, how important to your company, agency, or organizations are things like internships and study abroad programs? And does your company have internships, or what advice would you give students that are looking for internships? So to maybe talk about their importance, each of you perhaps briefly, for an entry level position at your company, and then if your company even offers them.
I can start with this one. So for me personally, I actually did intern with KPMG before starting full time. So I interned between my junior and senior year of college, and our intern group sizes are actually pretty large. I'd say KPMG does a really good job of trying to get um, high performing students to become interns with the goal of ultimately bringing them back um, full-time employees, right? So that's kind of, they really invest a lot of time and effort into that outreach of trying to get that, because ultimately that's how they grow the talent pool and have high performing entry level staff join full time. And so I really valued my internship. It was an 8-week program in which I got exposed to, the everyday life of what I would be functioning as a full-time employee. In terms of whether it's crucial or not that you have interned in order to get a full-time, I'd say not at all. A lot of the folks that were kind of in the same starting year, I guess I should say, as myself, a lot of them did not. They were not KPMG interns that had then accepted full-time. So it's definitely not make or break whether you've interned before leading into full time. And I also wouldn't necessarily say that you're like a leg behind if you didn't intern before starting full time. They do a really good job of kind of getting you with onboarding and training, resources available, leadership trying to look out for you and make sure that you're welcomed and getting everything that you need from both a training perspective, a networking perspective, professional development perspective, getting on a project that you really are interested in. So, I'd say that the internship program is definitely great. I learned a lot, and it ultimately is what brought me back for full time. So definitely a good example of someone who like took that route. But again, it's not like if you didn't intern, you're like behind, or you're not going to be looked at the same. Like it's not like that at all. So that would be that's my answer.
Yeah, I would second that. I personally did not do any internships in college. I worked 2 jobs in college, so I didn't have time for internships. So it really, if you can internship, great. If you can't, I agree. I don't think it really puts you behind in the job market, really at all. As someone who has hired kind of entry level junior analysts and developers, typically what employers are looking for or hiring managers are looking for in an entry level position is kind of how you approach a problem and your level of curiosity. So again, so much of what you're doing at a junior or entry level position is you're just kind of a sponge. You're soaking up all the information that you can. You're learning all of the different tools that you can. And somebody who has that attitude, at least in my opinion, is going to go a lot farther than somebody who can check off internship boxes or things like that. It's more of an attitude perspective than an experience perspective, at least from my opinion. So.
Awesome. So at Tableau and Salesforce, we have internships for undergrads, for MBAs, and also I'm heavily involved in the SkillBridge internships for like transitioning veterans as well. Well, I agree that you won't necessarily be behind if you don't do an internship. Just kind of from my experience working in the national security space, one of the most important things you can do if you want to go there and do that kind of work is get a security clearance as soon as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is to intern while you're in college. Either find a defense contractor or find a government agency, whether it's like NSA or NGA or someone that'll bring you on for an internship and get you started in that clearance pipeline, because sometimes that can take two years to get your clearance. And if you want to do analytics in the federal space, in the DoD or in the intelligence community, it's a requirement. And there's way more jobs than there are cleared people. So having that clearance as soon as possible will open up a ton of jobs, and you'll have much higher salaries when you have that clearance versus when you don't.
Yes, very, very insightful again. I love how positive and encouraging you are to all our students. Here's another question that came from the students. So for someone who wants a more advanced technical career in data science, what sort of entry level job can they look for now that would help them prepare for that highly technical data science career? If any of you want to, I don't think we all each need to, but answer.
I mean, I think there's a lot of entry. I mean, you're really just looking for a data scientist job, or sometimes they call it data analyst. I mean, usually with any kind of the data scientist, data analyst, business analyst jobs, there is an opportunity to do, if you want to program in Python or if you want to get super technical building AI, ML tools. Usually there is some opportunity to do that regardless of like what your job title is there. they will recognize your skill or your desire to learn. And there's always a need for that type of skill set. So I don't know if there's a specific job, but I think if you want to be more technical, you should be probably looking at like the data scientist, data machine, AI, ML engineer type roles. I would probably look in that direction. But again, I think there's room to do that within a lot of jobs within the field.
Anyone else want to add to that? You don't have to, but if you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I would add, don't be hesitant to apply for data analytics roles, even though that's not technically data science. Data science is still such a new branch of analytics, and a lot of businesses are hungry to start doing data science, machine learning, all of that fun stuff. But so often their data is not in, it doesn't exist in such a way that it's conducive to run machine learning against it. So a lot of times you kind of have to start at that data analytics level to get their data prepped and ready so that you can actually run data science algorithms against it. So definitely don't cross those off just because it's not data science specific, because I think a lot of companies aren't quite there yet.
Yeah, even universities are trying to catch up to
Yeah.
build programs and courses that would prepare a future data scientist, as opposed to, the data wrangler, as you're mentioning it, or the
Yeah.
data analyst at the beginning. Brian,
Yeah.
another follow-up question from a student on what you were talking about with security clearances. What type of clearance do you need for business analytics in the private sector?
Well, generally, you wouldn't necessarily need a government security clearance within the private sector unless you're doing work with the Department of Defense or the intelligence community. So I'm not aware of anything that you would need in the private. I mean, there's some certifications and things on the private sector, as you're dealing with confidential data or things like HIPAA and things like that. I think there are some certifications that you would do there, but as far as the government security clearance, I think that's generally for your defense contractors who are dealing kind of directly with the government.
Right. So there, you might have a private company that is a consultant for a government country or company and or program, and they might need the security clearance. Is that what you're saying about with the contract?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for them to win, contracts with the government working on, secret or top secret work, they have to have employees that have those security clearances. So it's really important. And again, like I said before, generally there's a lot less people who are cleared than there are positions to be filled. So it's pretty a sure bet to get a job if analytics skills and you have one of those clearances.
So another question from students, this one's more on skills needed for entry-level positions. If you're familiar with your company's job requirements for entry-level positions at your company, what can we do as candidates to stand out and be noticed by your company? If you each want to touch on that to maybe add to a good list of skills or qualifications or.
Sure, I can start on that one. I know from an entry level perspective, it really depends on what you're looking to do. If you're looking to do more back end development, highlighting skills like I've taken coursework in SQL, or I've done school projects in Python or R. That's always things that we like to look for on resumes. If you're looking for more front end work, Brian can probably speak to this better than I can, but I know I really like anybody who's got a Tableau public profile. So I can kind of see what their data visualizations look like. A lot of times, I'm pretty active in several Tableau user groups, so I like to poach people from user groups. So if you can get active and participate in some of those, it just kind of helps you stand out and gives you some experience that you don't necessarily have to work for, but that kind of sets you apart of, hey, I'm willing to pick up this skill and run with it. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also to add on to the kind of like coursework in SQL or Python, if there's any opportunity or any certain class where you had a really cool project or maybe some sort of capstone type of project where, or it could be something that you even did on your own extracurricular outside of core coursework, you can really highlight something like that. You built some really cool dashboard, or you found a problem that you just wanted to solve through analytics. You can speak to kind of what you did and how you were really interested in um, going about it, and that's something that can really stand out as, you know, outside of just something like having, you know, putting a certain software on the resume, having a clear story to support, you know, what you did, or why you did it, or that it was kind of just something that you were interested in, can really be a difference maker.
Yeah, so I agree. I think you know, capstone projects are great, but I think what are even better sometimes is, hey, if you can actually go and do a project, and it may just be for a nonprofit, it might be for a cause that you like. If you can actually execute and use analytics, doesn't really matter what it is, Python or Tableau, and build something that actually does some good, and folks can see that, you know, you were actually able to kind of take it from to start to finish, or at least build some proof of concept. Maybe publish it to Tableau Public, like Alyssa said, and so people can see. I actually had the opportunity to do that while I was at Darden. I participated in Student Challenge, and basically we just, me and a couple other friends, we decided, hey, we were going to help Vietnam veterans who were Blue Water Navy veterans and were exposed to Agent Orange. We were going to help get them benefits. So we took, you know, we took a couple days and we built out, you know, really awesome dashboards that helped them get the benefits that they deserved. Published those to Tableau Public, and that was like something that everyone could see. It was a project, you know, they saw you took the initiative and built something. So I think look for those kind of opportunities to support causes that you like, and you're passionate about using analytics, you can't go wrong there. So I highly encourage that. Also, I think at least in the data visualization, data analytics space, I think one thing that we're lacking a lot of times is like the um, kind of the graphic design like type capability, right? So a lot of people come and build like engineer dashboards, and they don't look that great. And they're very functional for what they're trying to do, but they don't like, you know, shock and awe the leadership. They don't love the way they look. So a lot of times where we see the people that are most successful are the ones that are either have some of those graphic design skills, or they team up with someone that has those skills. And one way you can really improve, at least on the Tableau side, and it doesn't even have to be Tableau. There's a site called Makeover Monday, and I would encourage you to check that out. I think it's makeovermonday.com. If you just type Makeover Monday, essentially what they'll do is they'll put a data set out every week, and then they'll challenge you to basically build some sort of visualization or recreate a visualization or make it a visualization that was printed somewhere better. And they do it every week, and at the end of the week you will see like the submissions from around the country and around the world that came in using that same data. So that will help you learn, help you see how others are basically using that data, making visualizations, telling stories, and because you use the same data, you'll learn really quickly. But if you do that like for 6 months, 9 months, you'll be amazed at how much you improve on your data visualization, data analytics, you know, data preparation skills. So that's one thing I think I'd highly encourage as well.
Yeah, it's amazing how when you get into having to present your analysis, how much visualization comes in and how much almost like you said, graphic design and presenting that visually, having that almost art presentation, you know, to your reports and findings. Um, Looks like we might have time for a couple quick last questions. Do you predict any trends in software or technology in the next maybe 3 to 5 years, like something you see up and coming that we should jump on and try to get experience on?
I'm seeing a lot of, I guess, movement towards like no code and low code tools, auto ML tools like, I don't know, AWS SageMaker, Data IQ, or Data Robots. I mean, and Tableau or Salesforce has their Einstein. So a lot of these companies are coming on the market with like low and no code tools. So while I do think coding is really important, I think if you're not strong at coding, maybe you don't really like Python or R, there's going to be a lot of opportunities down the road because like more and more companies I think are going to be migrating towards these tools that require you to do less like coding, if you will, and more just kind of thinking about the business problem and then building your models and getting your data, into the right shape and form and cleaning it and everything. So I think that's a trend that I see.
Are there any licenses or certifications required in your positions, or you think generally in business analytics?
No, I think there are. I mean, so Tableau, we have certifications. Salesforce has, we have a trailhead that's available for people to take classes and certifications. And like I know, like companies like AWS and Data Robot and others, there are certifications that are out there, and I definitely encourage if you can get certified, to do that, because again, it's easy for someone to put something on a resume, but getting the certification is a little harder. And I think it signals to potential employers that you actually have some of those skills, and is definitely good to have.
Alyssa or Daniel, do you want to add on maybe any software technical trends or certifications trends?
I was gonna say, to add on to that, for ServiceNow, there's a bunch of certifications that you can take where a bunch of different groups of certs actually, but like with like custom application development, stuff like that. It's a good example of like low code, custom apps. And I know that there's certs, good, it's a time commitment, but it's definitely doable. So it's something that can help get ahead, prepare you for some of those potential opportunities.
Yeah, I would definitely second the move towards no and low code applications. I know Gartner, I think, kind of coined the phrase citizen data scientist. So they're not really data scientists. They're more kind of sitting within the business. Typically, they understand the business really well, but they don't necessarily understand data science modeling really well, which is both really positive. It makes it more accessible, but it can also be really dangerous. So I would say on the heels of that, data literacy, in my mind, is something that people really need to start focusing on. So the models that they're producing with tools like Data Robot, Brian mentioned, or tools like Alteryx, somebody needs to be able to look at that and say, this makes sense to the business, versus I ran this model and this is what the model gave me. So sure, let's go with it. So that data literacy is really going to come in handy, I think, as these tools get more popular and more accessible to non-data science trained individuals. I would like to say on the certifications, I do think they're really important. I know like BDO, our tax performance engineering team, we have internships open. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me. But a lot of times we don't require that you're certified when you apply for your internship. We'll actually help you get certified once you start. So I know I was that broke college student who worked 2 jobs. So if you can always get somebody else to pay for that kind of stuff, that's always solid.
So it looks like one final question from the students before I give a wrap-up question, but they're asking, how will development of artificial intelligence and machine learning impact the role of, you think, business analytics? Do you see a trend, or you think those tools are being used more? If anyone wants to touch on that, I don't think we all need to.
I mean, I think it is going to, it will change some things. With automation and tighter integration of AI machine learning into some platform applications. I mean, I think some of the work that our data analysts or even data scientists are doing is going to quote unquote be automated. So I think, the people who their job is kind of cleaning data every day or every week and kind of taking data, put it into Excel, doing pivot tables, that type of stuff, that's certainly going to be impacted a lot. People who are building machine learning models, again, in writing R and Python, as we have these auto ML tools that maybe can even do that better than you can when you're coding it by hand, some of those positions are going to go away. I think what the positions might evolve to is like what Alyssa said, where you're kind of monitoring or you're providing some sort of governance to the models that are being done or to the citizen data scientists. But I guess who knows what the roles are going to look like. It's certainly going to be different 10 years from now than what it is right now. So I don't have a great answer, I guess.
No, I think you really did touch the point of that, there might be some impact, but it would probably be more in the repetitive, portion, the easy reproduced portion of the job that might be impacted by, AI and machine learning.
Yeah, and if I can add there really quick, like there's these business problems that are like constant that you always have or whatever, but like a lot of what you do as a data scientist or a data analyst is answer these ad hoc questions on a daily basis that just kind of come up, right? And you could never like predict all these ad hoc questions that come up. So there's always going to be a need for someone to be ready to do some sort of analysis on, some problem that came up that the boss asked, and he needs an answer by 5 p.m. So you're going to do a lot of that, I think, moving forward as well.
So we are getting close or at the end of our time here, but as one final kind of wrap up question from each of you, what do you know now about the field that you wished you knew in college, or what advice do you have for students that you wish you knew in college? Just a quick maybe wrap up final insight from each of you.
I would say the big thing is be very open to change. Analytics is changing all the time. Be curious about what's changing. Don't be afraid of it. What you go to school for probably isn't what you're going to end up doing for a career. I am not an economist, but I enjoy it a lot more than I think I would have enjoyed what I thought I was going to do in college. So be open to change and be curious.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I would just add on, as long as you're kind of eager to work hard and you're really motivated to learn and go out and take that extra step to really work toward, starting your career and progressing in your career, that you can go a long way with that. Whether, like Alyssa said, with not necessarily using your major, again, it doesn't put you behind. You with that willingness to learn, you can pick up some of these skills and be a really valuable asset to many companies. And that's kind of the most important thing in my eyes, is that willingness and eagerness to work hard and pick up new skills.
Yeah, and I think lastly, like was touched on before, your data is never going to look as clean as is in university classes. And you're going to have to be flexible. And some of the stuff that you really like and you're doing here in college, I did a lot of integer optimization, while I was at George Mason, and I have yet to run into like a problem suitable where I had actually data that I could do a, some sort of optimization. So I think just be flexible, solve problems.
Maybe not a good thing to say as we're starting that module and,
Oh
business
yeah.
Just
Sorry. And I think like lastly too, if you're considering like going into defense or intel or whatever, and you're going to have to get that security clearance, try to keep your nose clean as much as possible while you're in college, because it'll lead to some really awkward conversations with you and your investigator or your polygraph administrator, if you get too crazy in college.
Wow, I appreciate each of you and the time that you set aside to participate. It's very insightful. I'm sure you may remember participating in events like this when you were students for us to see, and maybe try out different careers and listen in to what this business analytics means and where it might take us.
Want to thank you all. Thank you so much to our wonderful panelists. This was a wonderful event. Thank you, Professor Garcia, and to the students. Have a wonderful day, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.